Welcome, grade 7s, to your Term 2 class for technology. Today we will be introducing a new subject. For the start of this lesson, I want you to look at the pictures I have for you on the screen. We have a house, a bridge, a DNA cord, a seashell, and a leaf. If you had to think about technology and everything technology embraces, what do you think these things could have in common? Today, we are going to look at something all of these images have in common, and that is structure. From a house to a leaf to our DNA, a bridge, and a seashell, we all contain a form of structure. And this is what we are going to learn about today. So, welcome to the types of structures we find within technology. The first thing we are going to look at before we start our lesson is what the word structure means. So, our definition for structures is that it refers to something that has been or is being made or built from parts. So, if you think about a structure in your house, so let's say your desk or dining room table. So it's something that's already been made. Your mom and dad bought it from a store and they brought it home and it was already assembled, or they assembled it themselves. But as you are sitting by it, it is a completely made structure. Now, have you ever written past a house that is being built, or maybe a mall that is being built, or any building, and you see those large metal structures along the walls and people climbing up, and maybe they're throwing bricks to each other or cement. Those are also types of structures, but they are not yet finished. So they are still being built. So if we think about ourselves, we are in our DNA, we are already a completed structure. We already here, and our DNA is already in us. But a baby structure is still forming. So if you think about a baby and maybe your mom's belly, that baby is still being built. It's still being formed into the structure of us, a human. Okay, so here I've put some examples for us. So structures are like buildings, bridges, DNA, and even a goalpost can be a type of structure. Okay, so when we talk about structures, there are three main categories a structure can fall into. So that means that maybe we aren't the same type of structure as our house. Or maybe we are. We're going to find out in today's lesson. Okay? So, there are many categories for structures, and we classify them under three main ones. Okay, so our first form of a structure is a solid structure. Our second form is a frame, and our third form is a shell. Okay, so before I explain them, can you think of a solid structure for me? Maybe a rock. Yes, so a form of a solid structure is like a rock. It's solid. Okay, let's think about a frame. So what could a frame be? So let's look out of our definition. So for a frame, we have a frame structure consists of different parts or a combination together. Okay, so what could be a frame structure? Do you have an idea? We mentioned a type of frame structure just now in our previous slideshow or previous slide. Yes, a form of a frame structure could be a goalpost. Okay, so if you think about a goalpost, if you play hockey or soccer, so a goalpost has usually the plastic or metal frame or even the metal, and then it's covered with padding, and then it has a net. So it's made up out of a few different things, and it has a frame where the net connects on. So it's a frame structure. Easy, right? And then a shell structure, I'm sure you all know by now. Shell structure refers to a shell. So it's an empty thing. So it could be like a glass where we can fill it with liquid, or we can put rice in this and make it a solid, or like a seashell where an animal climbs into, or it's full of sand. So a shell structure, if we look at the definition, is something that can hold liquid or a certain amount of solids. So this can hold cool drink, or it can hold about 500 mils of rice for us. Okay. Now, in our next few slideshows, we are going to look at different examples of solid structures, of frame structures, and of shell structures. So first, we start with our solid structures. If we look at our solid structures, these examples of them can be concrete dams, can be wooden poles, or it could be marble statues. Okay, so main thing about a solid structure is that it is made of one main material. It's not a bit of steel with a bit of net with a bit of plastic. It's one thing. So a concrete dam is made out of concrete. A wooden pole is made out of wood. A marble statue is carved out of marble. Okay, so it just contains that one ingredient. Okay. So if we think about other solid structures, we can say a rock can be a solid structure. We can say, what else can we have as a solid structure? We can say that a steel pole is a solid structure even, because it's just made out of steel. Okay, so our solid structures are very hard usually. They're made out of one thing. Okay, one ingredient. Then our next example is going to be frame structures. So frame structures are like a cake or a mug cake. We have a few different little ingredients in them. Okay. So a frame structure. And on my slide, you can see I've got a spider web because a spider net falls onto a frame structure. It forms like a little frame where a spider trap their flies, or if it rains, we can see the dewdrops everywhere on it. Okay, so the definition for frame structure is that it is made up of a skeleton or network, and it's built to support each other and resist forces. So there I've got spider webs as example. I have a net as example. Like I said, with a goalpost, we have our net and our frame, and that makes a frame structure. Then we have buildings, because buildings are made out of steel webs. We call it webs. It's not really called webs, it's steel frames. But if you've ever written past a building being built, you'll see there's like these steels sticking out of the concrete. And that is why we call it a frame structure. Because unlike a concrete dam, it's made up of more than one thing. So it's a frame structure. Okay, and then we have bridges, because bridges are made out of steel and there's cables, and we also get bridges that are made out of wood and nails, and it's more than one thing. So, one thing is our solid structure, only one ingredient, and frame structures are more than one ingredient. So it's like we've built a cake or making a cake, and we have one and more ingredients, or two or more. So we have our eggs, our flour, and our oil. Okay. Another example of a frame structure can be like us, our bodies, because we have bones inside of us, a skeleton inside of us, and that supports our body and makes it resist forces, and it supports our lungs, and it supports our arms from being picked, so we can pick them up. So we are also classified as a frame structure. Our next slide is going to be about seashells. Yes, you got it. Seashells are a form of a shell structure, and anything that can hold a liquid or solid inside and it has a curvy shape is called a shell structure. So we are unfortunately on shells. Yes, we can hold liquids and eat solids, but we are not a shell. Okay, so shells are like rooms in a house. So we can say a room in a house is a shell because we put furniture in there and we go in there and dogs go in there. So it can hold a few different things. And maybe you've been lucky enough to have a burst water pipe, and there's water in it as well. So it can hold a liquid as well. Bet you your parents weren't impressed, but it's also a shell for liquid. We then have a kettle, what we make coffee with. And what do we make as well when we make, or need as well when we make coffee? We have mugs. Mugs are shells as well. And then we have helmets, because helmets usually hold our brains and heads in place. And bottles. We all take a bottle to fill it with cool drink or with water, and it holds our liquids for us. Okay. Another shells, more examples is, not more examples, your teacher just found, like putting an extra image in here to show you it can be mugs as well. There's two pretty mugs. Okay, so shell structures is anything that can hold a liquid or solid and has a curvish shape. Okay. Now we are going to do a little activity. For your first activity, I want you to look at the following images on the screen and then write down what type of structure it is. So we have a rocket, a mountain, a tree branch, and then we have a dog with a cute hoodie on, which represents a skeleton. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to first answer this or think about the answers, and then we'll discuss it further. Okay, let's see. So, ooh, Your teacher has a mistake there. We'll have to fix it. Okay. So, a rocket is what type of structure? It is a shell type of structure. So let us quickly fix that. Okay, there your teacher's screen is fixed. So a rocket is a type of shell structure. Why? Well, because we load people and items into it. So a rocket is made up of metal and bolts and a few different things. And inside it, it's hollow. And we fill it with astronauts and space suits and food for them and fuel and vacuums and all kinds of cool stuff. Okay, so that's why we say a rocket is a shell because it holds solids and liquids. And though it's made out of a few different things like a frame structure, because it can physically hold humans and liquids and food and solids, we call it a shell because it holds things. Okay. Then we have the tree branch, which is a frame structure because we have tree branches and that is made out of wood, and we have apple wood and cherry wood and apricot wood, but it also holds fruit and leaves and insects. And because of that, we call a tree branch. And it's important to know a tree branch is a living thing. We didn't say a wood pole. We say tree branch. So it assumes that it's still living. And in the video, on the animation, you should see that it grows berries or apples, whichever you prefer. And that's why it's called a frame structure, because it's more than one thing. If I had written a wooden pole, it would have been a solid structure because we know a wooden pole is not living. An insect might crawl on it, but the wood itself is no more longer living. Okay. Then we have a mountain. But now you're going to say, but ma'am, you just told us a tree branch is not a solid structure. So how can a mountain full of ice and water and ground and animals be a solid structure? Well, simply because it's a mountain. It's made out of rocks. And although my picture does show grass and snow, it's still a solid structure because the snow is on top. Just because I fill this mug with cement doesn't make it a solid structure. It makes it still a shell. It is a shell holding cement. So, just like the mountain has snow on top of it, the snow isn't physically part of the mountain. We can blow the snow off, it melts away. The grass growing there, if it dies, it's no longer part of the mountain. It was simply on top of the mountain. The physical mountain itself is made out of stone, or in some cases, just ground. But this one is made of pure stone rock. So it's a solid structure. Then we have our dog. So I told you it's important to note, though it's just a cute jacket, my thought with the dog was to show you the skeleton of it. So, what did we learn? Skeletons are frame structures. But now I'm going to bamboozle you a bit. Because it is a dog, and it's got flesh on it, and our bones have different forms, we can't call it a combination of structures because there's more than one thing to it. Our muscles are just made out of muscles. So technically you can say that's a solid structure. Our bones are made just out of calcium. So that could also be a solid structure. But in a living thing, it has marrow in it and blood vessels in it, and that makes it a frame. But not really a frame as well, because our muscles are on top of us, and that makes is a solid. So for something like a human or a dog, we call them a combination of structures because they have more than one thing in them. Okay. Let us go to our next slide. So our next one is C. Okay, this is our next one. Structures serve many purposes. Okay, so why is it important that we know what structures are? Well, because they have many purposes. They allow us to cross distances. So if there were no bridges in the world, how would we get everywhere we wanted to go? Okay. So if there wasn't a bridge over a river, you could possibly not go to school, or you couldn't get to the sea without having to swim or row a boat. So bridges help us to cross things and to cross long distances. Sometimes we have little bridges that go over a stream. Sometimes we have large bridges that span over highways. Okay. Then structures also give us shelter. So most of us are sitting in a house or a class right now, and we are sitting within a structure. If it had to start hailing, we would be protected because we have a shelter. Okay, so structures provide shelter, and that keeps us safe. Structures also allow us to build. If we didn't have structures, how would we have houses? So it allows us to build new things like hospitals or airports or an Apple store. Okay. But then there's another important part. So structures can be found in nature. We have our man made structures like concrete dam, but we also have our natural structures like our DNA or like a tree branch. Those are things that automatically occur in nature. We also, another type of a natural structure is a seashell. So it's something we all have maybe picked up when we go to the sea or something we're very familiar with. We've all seen seashells, and that is a natural type of structure. Like our houses are man made, that's natural. Okay, so last part of our activity for today, our lesson for today, is the things called structures in your grade 7 MST handbook. So I've got it up on the screen as well, but you guys do have it in your workbook as well. So I would like you to answer the questions there. So they say, look around you in the classroom. So we are, unfortunately, some of us aren't in the classroom right now, but you are at home. So I want you to look around in your house for something. Okay, then choose any object, for example, a cupboard, a table, a chair, a basket, a bottle, a shoe, a pencil case, or a brick. Okay, so you can choose anything in your house. So I'm going to go with my coffee mug that I've been using in my video. Okay, so they're going to ask us, what is the object called? So my object is called a coffee mug or a mug. Okay, what is it used for? Well, right now it's being used for coffee. So my answer would be, it is used for coffee or to drink liquids out of. Okay. Then it's going to say, can it be used to keep certain things in one place so that they do not lie around all over the classroom? Okay. So if you're in your house, you can say all over the house. So my coffee mug, let's see, I can keep coffee in it. I could keep elastics in it. I could keep some pens in it, so my pens on line or everywhere. I can't keep a book in it. I can keep my stapler in it. So yes, we can use it to keep a few things in. Okay. Can it be used to protect something? For example, to protect it from sunlight or wind. Hmm. So I mean, if I had a little animal, it could protect it from wind, but not right now. So I'm going to opt for no. Okay. Is it used to support something? They're showing a man sitting on a chair. So I would definitely not use my mug to sit on. I don't think it's going to support me very well. So again, my answer is going to be no. But maybe you chose a table or a chair, and you can say yes. Or maybe you as light as bird, and it can support the bird. Then yes. Okay, so I want you to complete this activity on your own. There's another page where it asks you to describe two other objects that are different from chairs, but are also used to support something or someone. So they give you a bridge there, but want you to be more creative, and please not give one of your options for object to be a bridge. So anything other than a chair or a bridge, two of them. Okay. And that concludes our lesson about structures for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, grade sevens, and that you've learned quite a bit. In our next lesson, we will be continuing with structures and how we can reinforce structures to be more supportive and more beautiful as well. Okay, bye.